Hello, degenerates, and welcome to a brand new section on the channel. Something I haven't been able to do at all, but I've always talked about doing this quite a lot. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things in the world, and that is going to be the topic of theme parks. And finally, with this news breaking out with Princess and the Frog actually getting an overlay with Splash Mountain, I thought it was a pretty good time to finally dive in and start doing these style of videos. So, obviously, I'll be producing a lot of different content on this stuff going down the line. Don't know what capacity, but for now, we can get on to my usual short ramblings, or long ramblings. This one will be short, though, on my overall thoughts about this, things about the industry and all that right now. So I actually find it really interesting that this news comes out now, and I'll give my reasons for that a bit later. Overall, doing the Princess and the Frog to retheme Splash Mountain, I think it's a wonderful idea. Splash, if you guys don't know, Splash Mountain itself is based off of an older Disney movie that's based off of like some old folk tales called Song of the South. Well, the folk tales themselves are like the Tales of Uncle Remus and Br'er Rabbit. Known by a bunch of different names, but normally it's like the Tales of Uncle Remus. And it has been a very, very controversial film inside of the Disney vault for pretty good reasons, just like a lot of not so good depictions inside that movie. So I believe the last time it was re-released in theaters was like in 1986, and then since then it has basically been just locked away from people's eyes. Some things though is it does contain, it's a live action movie, but it does contain some animated segments, and it did also have like a little at the very end as like a short blend of live action and animation as well. So for the most part, you can't see the movie. However, you can still watch the animated segments on certain DVDs. So I know if you have the Alice in Wonderland Blu-rays, if you go to the bonus sections there, they do have like an episode of Disneyland, and I believe it contains all the animated segments on there. If not, it's just like two of them. And I think there's like three in the movie. So, if you are interested in checking out a little bit of it, that's like one of the legal ways that you can do it. The other thing too is like this movie has also been public domain in Japan as well. So certain areas outside the U.S., it is something that you can actually still watch. But one of the reasons why it's kind of weird for them to make this announcement now, like for granted, like I think this is something that probably should happen at some point, is that the thing I don't know is I don't know to what capacity they're going to be able to do this. So like kind of to give some background to leading up to this being announced, is that, we got COVID going on and the park has been shut down for a very long time. And not to mention, they do have a lot of projects going on and they just finished some big ones. They just finished up building 2 Star Wars lands, which were like among the most expensive lands that they ever built. If not, it was like the most expensive land they ever built. And they were making a really good return on them, but I don't think they ever completely matched expectations for what they wanted with it. Like one of the most infamous examples is they did build an app where you would have to wait to get inside the park before you could get in. And they outside of when Rise of the Resistance opened and when the park first opened, they have not had to use it since then. Rise of the Resistance uses a virtual queue, but like it's just for that ride. It's not like for the entire land itself. And sometimes it's just because the ride just keeps breaking down and people just cannot get on it. So they try again the next day, and it's just like a really weird pile up and build up that happens with that. Actually, if anything, if you remember back to when the land itself first opened back in May, there were a lot of reports of it just being a complete ghost town in there. Because like with Disneyland, a lot of the people that go there are just annual pass holders and all that. And they got blocked out from going there during that time period. So you could literally go there on the 4th of July and there was apparently just nobody there. So, and if you guys know Disney, 4th of July is like one of the busiest days out there. So they still haven't recouped all their losses from building those projects. Not to mention, they started building Tron over in Disney World. They started the new nighttime show over in Disney and Epcot as well. Not to mention, like, there's no ground that's broken on the Mary Poppins attraction, but, they announced plans to do that. They're redoing all of Future World too. They have leveled most of Innoventions at this point. So they're still where they cleared the ground for that, but that hasn't been finished yet. The space restaurant still isn't complete yet, even though I know the building is done at this point. And just like so many other things too. Just and the Ratatouille ride as well that's going over in France too. So it's like they still have to complete all of those projects. Not to mention, they still have the Star Wars hotel that never opened. So that is just like a cost that is not going to be able to recoup its costs at all because that's not done, and because of the closed in nature of that experience, I don't think as long as COVID's going on, that's going to be feasible in any capacity at all, because the way that one's supposed to work out is it's supposed to be your own interactive story where you will go to Galaxy's Edge. That's all we really know about it. But, just by the details that we know, is going to be a lot of like person to person interactions. You're going to be close with a lot of people. So the exact opposite of what you want with COVID. So, that's another issue that they're going to have to deal with. Not to mention, it's like they just have improvement projects going on around the world. That also includes in Hong Kong, where they at least got to finish the castle there. So that's good. Then over in Euro Disney, Disney Studios is finally getting the long overdue renovations that it needs to just like make it a full big park with like unique things that you want to experience. And then, Shanghai just opened. So, from what I know, it's done pretty well, but, relatively new park, 1 year, just like 1 or 2 years into its operation. And, I don't know if they've ever completely paid that one off yet. And then like Hong Kong with all their improvement projects, I'm not sure if they paid off those yet. And given like that they had like all those other issues going on there, they had a pretty slow season going into this as well. So that's where that issue will come into play here. So, Splash Mountain, this is easily one of the most beloved attractions in the entirety of the Disney catalog. You got your three mountains, and for a lot of people, this is among their favorites. Really good songs. It's a very good ride, very, very well themed. It's very big and very extensive. So if you're going to retheme Splash Mountain, you need to give it the attention and care that it deserves. Like my big fear going into this is that if they do not have the financial backing to really, really pull this off correctly, it's going to get a huge backlash to it. And it's like, when you're like retheming it to be like a way, way, way less controversial thing and all that, it's like, you want to do it correctly. And that's what they need. This is a massive attraction. There's a lot of animatronics there, so you'll either have to retheme them or completely replace them. If there's anywhere like damage to the rock work, they're gonna have to redo that and retheme it. Like as you can see in this image, this is the only concept image that we have at the moment. Okay, that's that side, and it's like you see we got a boat at least on the top of the tree there. And Chickabin Hill's actually gonna have to be completely redone because the tree does not look like that. They can just keep the opening, and that's really it. And that just add a lot more vegetation to it. The other thing too is just like all the retheming that you're gonna have to do around it. The good thing is, at least in Disneyland, it's gonna be pretty easy to incorporate this. Right next door, it's technically in Critter Country, but it is right next to New Orleans Square. So putting a New Orleans overlay on this is gonna be relatively simple speaking, at least just integrating it all around. You'll just have to redo the Winnie the Pooh area a little bit, and then they'll probably redo the restaurant into a Princess and the Frog themed one, just because like you got a lot of good locations to choose from. So one of the core aspects of that movie is food. So definitely very looking forward to that when they get around doing this. But yeah, the good things about this is that they have not exactly given an opening date yet. So that does at least give them a lot of time to play around with this. But if you know Disney, and at least like during the Disney decade, there was a lot of things they announced and then just eventually got canceled. I wouldn't really be too worried about this project getting outright canceled, but I can see it being announced and nothing's just said about it for like another 5 or 6 years, especially with the way that the pandemic might play out. Like, now Disneyland itself is going to be closing a bit longer, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that for Disney World, considering how all the cases are going on over here too. So we'll see what ends up happening with this. Overall, at least from a lot of the reactions that I've seen online, a lot of it has been very, 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 very positive. It kind of surprised me. I thought there was going to be like a lot more initial backlash to this because it is Splash Mountain. But the good thing is like a lot of people like this movie. I think because of like everything going on in the world, especially with like the Black Lives Matter movement and all that stuff, I think a lot more people are just kind of more receptive to doing this. And it's not like there wouldn't be a lot of good ideas going into this as well. Like, of course, the music from this movie absolutely incredible. There's a lot of really cool visuals that you could do, especially with the Shadow Man. Given that they have all those dark ride segments in there, and what they did with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway with all the projection mapping there, I think we could have a really, really, really cool scene with that. And there are some things that you're going to be able to keep, like the steamboat that they have at the end. That's going to be a very easy thing to just like slap a Princess and the Frog layover on top of there. Um, and like some of the other things too, like there's probably a lot of sets that they might be able to keep, but they will have to like kind of change like the overall color and tone of it. And I think that's going to be the main thing of it. The other thing too is they, at least story wise, they announced that this one is going to take place after the movie, which I think is a good thing. Because like if you took place during a movie, you know, uh, Tiana and the Prince, forgot his name unfortunately, they'll just be like frogs the entire time. But at least this way, it's like if they do animatronics of them, it's like they're going to be full humans and everything. And I think that's just going to be a lot better that way instead of just kind of like cheapening it out there. So definitely the cool thing is I think you'll have like a lot of you'll have a really good soundtrack playing with you. Like they have a lot of like upbeat New Orleans jazz style songs throughout the movie, and I can see that taking place like throughout the beginning of it. And then if you go interact with like the shadow creatures or the Shadow Man himself, which if it takes place after the movie, maybe you don't even see the Shadow Man. You could do the Are You Ready like very easily to just incorporate that there up to like the mountain, and when you go down, you got a number of like of really uplifting songs to play at the end there too. So I have no doubt in my mind that they'll be able to do a really, really good job retheming this. The only thing that might be a little bit more tricky to do is incorporating it into Disney World, just because in that area it's like all pure frontier, and the Bayou look is very much different from the way that looks. So that's just going to be like the one where I feel like they're going to have a little bit more issues incorporating it into, but I think there's a clever way that you could make the mountain work with it. It's just that when you're going in those little outside segments and you're going down the drop, it's going to be a little awkward of a transition there. But outside of that, I think they can do a fine job, and they can probably retheme like the whole queue area to a way that it makes more sense. So it's like you're transitioning into this location and all that. Um, And the other good news about doing this, specifically with the two U.S. parks, is it will make Splash Mountain over in Tokyo Disneyland stick out as it will be the original, which is kind of a theme with Tokyo Disneyland. Like, if you ever wanted to experience the full unedited version of the Country Bear Jamboree and the unedited version of Pirates of the Caribbean, if you guys don't know, if you watch like Defunct Land or Yesterworld, they go about the history and the revisions of that ride pretty in depth. So check that out if you're into Disney history and all that stuff. The version over in Tokyo Disneyland is completely unchanged. So, like, all those things that would definitely not be okay are still in there too. So it's a pretty interesting time capsule in that respect, and they do keep really good maintenance of that too. So it's like all those original things, but just like kept up to the highest standards over there. So that's kind of what would happen with Splash Mountain over there. Like, definitely not nearly as controversial back over in Japan. And the other thing too is like with their whole Critter Country, which is where Splash Mountain is kept in. That's honestly like one of the nicest themed areas that they have over there. It would be kind of sad if they had to change all of that. But overall, that's going to work well in the long run for keeping Japan unique. It'll keep the U.S. parks unique. Give us some added extra flavor, and give us an excuse to really do like a full extensive refurbishment of this ride. Like, of course, it goes down for refurbishment every now and then, but this will be a really good chance to like maybe upgrade some of the systems, upgrade the rock work too if it has to be touched up, which it definitely will be for this one, and get some new amazing animatronics in there. So definitely be interesting to see what they do with that. I'll be interested to see what they keep, what they don't do, what the timeline of this will be, and we'll just have to go from there. So overall, very positive about this news. Looking forward to it, but the budget is going to be the biggest concern that I have going forward with this. So with that said, that's going to wrap up my thoughts on this whole Princess and the Frog retheme going on. So kind of give you like an idea of some things that I will be going over to in the future. I'm going to be doing some like analysis videos going on, kind of like what I do with like my Smash videos and all that, except it's going to be on theme park rides. So a lot of reviews, but there's one comparison video that I really want to make, and it's going to be between Everest and Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure, because they're two essentially like the same type of class of roller coaster. But like I want to talk about like the execution of them because like I feel like there's a lot of really interesting things to dissect on that front. But I'll just have to figure out the format that I really want to present that in, and just talk about all these things that I really love with it. As always, if you do want to support the show and all that stuff, don't forget to check the links down below. Find the Teespring store there. Help support the channel. Help support the Duck Hunt Discord. Let me know what interesting things you want me to talk about on the theme park side of things, because probably a lot of you guys might love this stuff, or you may have never heard this stuff, or you might want to hear my thoughts on certain things, and I'll be more than happy to talk about them with you guys, because I love going in depth with this stuff, and it's a lot of fun talking about these things with people, especially like kind of just broaden people's perspectives on like how much really goes into these attractions, because it's honestly quite amazing. So with that said, thank you guys for tuning in to this one. Hope you like this stuff. Let me know what you want to see in the future. Support the channel, subscribe. Don't forget, a lot more things coming on Twitch too and all that stuff. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. So take care of yourselves until then.